Texas. To outsiders, we are just cowboys and horses, but we all know that Texas has the biggest, most beautiful cities in the world, from the state capital of Austin to the busy highways in the large city of Houston. Or maybe you might be in the history-enriched city of San Antonio. Possibly you're in the greatest one of them all, Dallas, Texas. Point is that no matter which corner of this great state you are in, you're covered under the sombrero of coverage with a true Texan. Northwest Insurance Agency. Call us today for sombrero-style coverage from the best in Texas.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let we go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I am Billy Embody. Thanks for joining me. We are presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency. Mark Villasana, you heard about him in the opening there. Give him a call, 214-352-5656. Talk about insurance today. Got a lot to get to. This is the podcast where I'm going to react to kind of the latest news on the transfer front, the final pieces of that SMU roster are now in place for the most part. And this has been kind of the latest news to drop. So I still want to do that podcast looking back on the 2 weeks, but I'll kind of run through this past weekend and the most recent, I guess, news around the transfer portal for SMU, kind of react to that, share where a couple things stand here moving forward. And then later this week, we'll do that kind of look back podcast of I'll go back to, Easter Sunday and figure out what all has gone on and kind of share some thoughts on that. We will also have our Cinco de Mayo podcast. We had 4 SMU players join us at Manny's Tex-Mex on Mockingbird. Again, say queso for 10% off at any of their locations across DFW. We had Zakai Barker, Alexander Kilgore, Trey Wilson, and Derek McFall join us. It was fun. It was popping out there from 6 to 8 p.m. on that patio there on Mockingbird. So make sure you say queso, 10% off at any Manny's Tex-Mex across DFW. They're 4 locations. So had a blast over there. That was a great time. So appreciate all of you guys who showed up and spent some time with us on Cinco de Mayo. We'll do more things at Manny's for sure. All right, let's go to the latest news as far as SMU transfer portal. And this is a familiar name that happened on Tuesday or Monday. I'm not sure. The days are running together. Let's see. It was Monday around lunchtime. SMU landed a transfer portal wide receiver. And of course, that is the second one in really a handful of days that jumped on board with SMU. And this one comes with not as much fanfare, but a lot of familiarity. And that is former SMU wide receiver Dylan Goffney returning to SMU to play for the Mustangs. And Dylan is somebody that I was really high on coming out of Bridgeland High School down in the Cypress area when he did. It was him, and he had a teammate as well in that Bridgeland class that I'll have to find. His name is escaping me for some reason. And I don't know why, but they do have a tendency of producing some top talent, and SMU, Bryce McMorris, who ended up, he got hurt and just didn't pan out. He was kind of on a huge track there for a minute, but Dylan Goffney ended up leaving SMU for Colorado State, and he spent 2 seasons out there with the Rams before entering the transfer portal and opting to play his final season at SMU. So this is a really cool deal for him to come back. He wasn't somebody that when he left after the 2023 season or before the 2023 season that he wanted to leave. SMU had added guys like Keyshawn Smith, Moochie Dixon. Maybe Moochie was the year before, but Keyshawn Smith, Romello Brinson, Jordan Hudson was there. They just added a lot of these new names to the wide receiver room. And unfortunately for Dylan, on top of Roderick Daniels and Jake Bailey, I mean, he really would have had a tough time getting on the field. But in 18 games over 2 seasons, his first 2 with SMU, he caught 32 balls, 500 yards, 2 touchdowns. Man, you were just waiting for maybe that breakout year from him. And instead, he had to go elsewhere to do that. And in 2023 for Colorado State, he was 5th on the team with 23 receptions, 298 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He played in 11 games with 8 starts that year. And then in 2024, he made 1 start over 4 games, the first 4 games, and then he sat out the rest of the season with the intent to transfer and save this last year of eligibility. He caught 6 passes for 57 yards. Now, this is not game breaker, difference maker, but what Dylan Goffney brings to the table now is at a position where SMU just signed a big freshman class. They're on track to maybe sign the same number of wide receivers as they did in 2025. So they're bringing in wide receivers left and right. Scholarship-wise, it's very low risk because he does have 1 more year. And then on the flip side of that, you get somebody who knows the system. Even when Dylan Goffney entered the portal, I think a couple weeks ago, Kevin Jennings had quote tweeted it and maybe said something like "come home." I don't know if he added that, but he was, made his feelings felt about how he felt about Dylan Goffney maybe returning to the program. And so for Dylan to come back, you got that familiarity. He really loves SMU. He didn't, want to leave. And again, it was just solely opportunity based for him to go ahead and make that move. And he did. And you know what? It kind of worked out in a sense. He's come back now and he's able to spend his final year of eligibility at SMU. He'll play inside and out or have the opportunity to. He's got the size to, be able to play on the outside while also playing on the inside. So this is a nice pickup for SMU. Again, low risk, not high cost. You have Jordan Hudson. You have Romello Brinson. You have Jalen Cooper, who they really like after spring. Dalen Singleton still developing. They really like his future. You add Link Rhodes this summer. And then we'll talk about the other receiver SMU added, of course, Yamir Knight here in just a second. But this is a very safe play for SMU and one that makes a lot of sense. He's a mature young man and he's a vet and he's looking to make one final statement before his draft year, make a move and see if he can push these other wide receivers and get on the field and make, like I said, make a move. And so this was a smart move by Rhett Lashlee and SMU. They're down to their final scholarship or 2 that they can use here. And so they will try to figure out where that goes, whether it be D tackle or linebacker or some other best available position. They'll work that out. But SMU doing this, I think, was a very smart move. He's a really good young man now who didn't want to leave SMU in the first place and just saw a stacked receiver room that, he needed to go somewhere else and play. So these are kind of not the fun transfer stories because you would have liked him to not transfer and play out his SMU career. But at the same time, it works out him coming back to Dallas, his home state as well, for his final year of eligibility. So pretty cool stuff there. Before we continue on with the On the Pony Express podcast, I do want to remind you guys that we're also presented by our friend at StatusJet. StatusJet.com is where you can get the rundown on their entire fleet of aircraft that they can put you in. And also the great thing here, no membership fee, no huge amount of credit you need to put down with StatusJet. You can do it as a one-off vacation, work trip, what have you. They'll take care of all the details. Just go to statusjet.com, dial them up, do an interest form, whatever you want, but mention On the Pony Express and get your discount on a round trip flight. So they support SMU, big supporters of the Mustangs, and you should give them a look for your next trip and make it the trip of a lifetime with our friends at StatusJet. All right, now we will go back to last week where SMU added another wide receiver into the fold for this football team, and one that comes with a little bit more fanfare. It comes with a little bit more of that, wow, okay, this was a statement by SMU to go out and get this player. And the big addition is Yamir Knight, who comes to SMU from James Madison and arrives as a trendy pick now to certainly take over the punt return duties for SMU. He'll probably have a shot at doing the kick return duties as well, but he ended up becoming a terrific slot option for James Madison as well. Finished 2020 2024 with 53 catches, 605 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And he has 2 years of eligibility remaining. So this is key too, because you have Yamir Knight, who has 2 years left. And if you look at the wide receiver group that they recruited in this 2025 class, a lot of outside guys, Dalen Singleton could end up on the inside, but they're playing him at outside right now. You're recruiting DeQuain Prevost for that slot position in the 2026 class. He is their lone slot target, like we've talked about. So if all of this kind of pans out, you have a very natural progression now of slot wide receivers, where all of a sudden you didn't. You have Jackson Lavender still on the roster. He can help you, but you do need somebody who has true experience. And in particular, 21 punts returned for 173 yards during the 2024 season. Big solution there for that role. Again, SMU kind of likes the running backs to do the kick returning and kind of have that vision, that the ability to see the holes develop and all those things. And so with Yamir Knight, they address the punt return position, which also really helps because Randy Reese transferred out and left the program. So he was back there, one of the options that was catching punts. So again, this is a nice pickup for SMU. He picked SMU over Cal and Texas Tech. And so there was a big need here for a slot receiver. And in talking with sources, Rhett Lashlee really realized that, I think, over the course of spring. And there's that inkling of it, right? Like, all right, SMU lost Roger Daniels Jr., Jake Bailey, 2 huge losses for this team. And, Jake was unavailable the second half of the season, but those are 2 guys that at that position played it very, very well for SMU. So to lose them was a big deal. Now you have somebody who comes in and has that experience at the slot, has that experience returning kicks and punts, particularly punts. Perfect fit. High academic kid coming over from James Madison. He was also recruited by Curt Cignetti. And if you followed Curt Cignetti's career, I mean, he's been one of the best wide receivers coaches in the country for a long, long time before ending up at IU. So a nice pickup for SMU. They get a big win here, but this all really started towards the end of spring. Rhett Lashlee kind of said, you know what, I think we need to address this position with a portal guy. They were not going into the season into the spring probably planning on doing that. Link Rhodes is going to get time in the slot. He's going to get that opportunity as well and really be somebody that they could have a lot of speed and fun with at that position. But they said, you know what, we need to add one more here to this mix, and they get a good one in Yamir Knight. So kudos to SMU for getting him on board, and he'll come in now with high expectations. And that's where Rob Likens will have to get him up to speed very quickly. Kevin Jennings, this is part of the reason why you bring in or you bring back your quarterback, and it's so important that the teams that do have those quarterbacks back, it really is so helpful. And to have Kevin Jennings back is a huge deal, because he'll obviously take over this kind of mentorship in the summer and try to get him ready to go right away for this season and for this team. And so that's important. And it's a really nice piece to the overall puzzle that that Kevin Jennings can do that. And that's where he's also going to have to do it with Link Rhodes. He's going to have to do it in a sense with Kevin Jennings as well, or with Dylan Goffney as well. Just get him back up to speed. And that's kind of the plan. So SMU really does a good job addressing the receiver position. You should feel good about that spot now moving forward as they have those 2 additions to the wideout room coming off of the spring transfer portal window. Before we go any further, I do want to remind you guys about our friends at the Thomas Auto Group as well. Reach out to them today. Schedule your appointment for your service to your vehicle. They've got a great service department. I told you guys I went up there, got some work done. They've got the coffee machine. They've got great space to work. They've got a kids area, TVs going, all those things. So you can spend the day there, and most people don't want to do that, but you can. And that's the nice thing about the Thomas Auto Group. It feels like just kind of a homey vibe that you can sit around and get work done or shop around for a new vehicle. Again, pre-owned and new vehicles are both subject to employee pricing when you mention ontheponyexpress.com. So head up 75 McKinney Ford, Subaru, Volkswagen dealerships are ready to roll for you guys, and we appreciate their support of the On the Pony Express podcast. For SMU now, the transfer portal window is closed, and for college football in general, the only thing you'll see is potential grad transfers who are the traditional grad transfer that can leave. So when you see guys pop into the portal, that's generally what the reasoning is, unless somehow their head coach leaves at this point in the offseason. And SMU, I mentioned earlier in the podcast, having that one scholarship, having that one opportunity to maybe 1 to 2 opportunities to add more to this program is paramount. And Amari Campbell, the North Carolina linebacker who did visit SMU this past weekend, did commit to Penn State just overnight and made that decision. And truthfully, and I don't want this to sound like SMU didn't want him. I don't want this to sound like he wouldn't have helped. And I don't want to make this sound like sour grapes. But I told you guys that when I saw the linebackers that SMU had on their official visit from the high school ranks this weekend, they don't look like Amari Campbell physically. I mean, they really, really don't. And it's such and I know SMU's had success with these undersized linebackers like Kobe Wilson and Ahmad Walker. But I'll argue this. Kobe Wilson, he is built different. He's just happens to be short. And Ahmad Walker, we saw what he could do right away in SMU's defense because he did it at Liberty and he did it in big games against really high-level programs. And, 76 tackles in 2024, second most for the Tar Heels last year, great production. 10.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks as well. There's a reason why he was the number one available linebacker in the spring transfer portal window. But, man, he just did not look like he just looks small, like really small. And no, he's got the proven ACC production. Kudos to him if he wants to go to Penn State and play in that. I think it's going to be difficult just because it's such a different conference. Like I think in the ACC, there's probably a chance that he's a better fit. But and you can't fault the kid for going to Penn State and playing linebacker, even though SMU's had great linebacker play lately. I think SMU has a really good pair of starting linebackers in Alex Kilgore and Zakai Barker. They have really good depth pieces in Brandon Maiazono. If he could stay healthy, he's going to be good. You've got Brandon Booker. You've got Justin Medlock hanging around. You need some of these guys to step up. There's no doubt about it. Kyle Firm didn't compete in the spring, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But he is on campus and was on campus this spring. You've got Mark Ianakor. There's a reason why they were going after him. I mean, they wanted a guy who had played and played serious snaps at a high level. I just think I'm not sweating Amari Campbell going to Penn State. I don't even know Penn State's linebacker situation. I don't know if they had a better pitch. I don't know if they had a better opportunity for him as a whole. I don't know the situation. What I can tell you is my confidence in Zakai Barker and Alex Kilgore to be very good linebackers for SMU and for them to figure out all the different things that need to make this work. It would have been nice to have him from another depth and talent piece. I mean, it would have, but it's not. SMU went out into the spring transfer portal window and they needed to go and get D tackles. What did they do? They got them. They got Woo Spencer and they got, of course, I'm forgetting his name. Kevontae Spears from Memphis. They needed to address that position. They didn't need to address linebacker. In the world of the transfer portal, and I don't know if it was Rhett or somebody else that said this recently, but it's true. Why did Randy Reese leave? Why did Zach Smith leave? The linebacker room, I mean, there was opportunity. There's not that many in front of you. Why did Keldrick Luster leave? Because they have a better opportunity to play somewhere else and play right now. And they've been on campus at least 1 year in all of those cases. And they can maybe see, hey, maybe this isn't it. Let me go make a move. a place wants me and wants me to go in and play right away and contribute to their team, whereas I might be playing special teams, Zach Smith's case, Randy Reese's case. And if that's the case, you go and you move on. The impressive thing about SMU is how they've been able to retain at pretty much every position depth, talent, guys who want to be here and want to be a part of winning. And that's where I think the new day and age of this roster management with cap, like people talk about the 105 or spending and spending and spending to have this insane depth at every position. There are schools that are among the top 3 or 4 or 5 spenders in the portal, and they have holes that they're still looking to fill because some of their players have left for that opportunity. There's only so many cultures around the country that have cultures where players want to be a part of a winning team so badly that they're willing to do whatever it takes. And that includes maybe be a backup, play a lot of special teams, do all of those things. Look up and down at the position groups on SMU's roster. And right now, you would say, okay, D tackle, here's D tackle. And I'm getting off a little bit here, but you've got Jonathan Jefferson, who's probably out for the season. So set him aside. Jeffrey Embody, Terry Weber, your 2 starting D tackles. Then you have, and I haven't updated my scholarship sheet, of course, since France, but then you have Kiavante Spears and you have Lou Spencer. Those are your 2 backups, 2 reserves, or two key backups. Spears started for Memphis. He played a bunch of games. Big guy in the middle, very Tank Booker-like. Then you have Spencer. Really looks like he's got a chance to be a good one, long term. It's just a matter of it panning out. He moved over from offensive line. Then you get to your 3rd string. And I need to probably do this on PFF and break down, your who got the handful of snaps a game. Like, go look at the D line, look at the D tackles, average out however many snaps a game, and this is your 3rd string. It's probably 10 to 15 snaps a game, maybe. Like, look at all the snaps Elijah Roberts played each week, played around 50 or so, I believe. Look at his production. Cam Robertson came in and cleaned up the rest. So 10 snaps. This is 10 snaps, your 3rd string. Blake Burris, Kevin Allen, who came on strong, DeMarge Lewis, who, if healthy, has been a good player. And then you've got Tyrone Winslow, who comes in this summer. That's not bad. That's 4 guys battling for 2 spots on the 3rd string. And so while D tackle is a need, I think they want another Jared Harrison Hunt. Like, they went out and got Mike Lockhart. They went out and got Tank Booker. They went out and they had Jonathan Jefferson they brought in. They knew they had hit on those 3 guys last year. And that's 3. They knew it in spring. So it's a little bit of a different boat here. They know they've hit on Terry Webb and Jeffrey Embody, they feel like. Now they're not going to know on Spears and Spencer until the fall. So this is why they want to add 1 more if they can. The trouble is finding it now, and in a very competitive environment, to find a Jared Harrison Hunt. That's why they're after another D tackle. They're not after another D tackle right now for depth, like a piece, just to say we've got another D tackle. They're looking at it from who can we add in this very competitive environment that's a reasonable number, and go out and get a guy that maybe we know a little bit more is a in between a starter backup level. And then you have 5 guys. And then it's like last year's rotation for sure. What your question is going into this season, DeMarge Lewis, is he going to be healthy? Blake Burris, can you please take the next step? Kevin Allen, you had a good spring. Let's take that next step. So that's the need. The need isn't, oh my gosh, SMU's not in a good situation D tackle wise. Like that's depth right there. It might not be proven in some cases at this level, at the ACC level in particular, but they've recruited well enough against teams that are really good at it as well, and good portal teams, hello Auburn, hello South Carolina, and they've gone out and gotten guys and beat them out. for those D tackles. Like they were competitive. So it's a different world for college teams to build up depth, because you're third, you're fourth on most defensive lines, like from defensive end to defensive tackle. If you've got a third guy who plays snaps, who's had a little production, maybe they're a veteran, they might be leaving to go get their big role. And that's what makes it so impressive that you look at, man, like SMU has Nate Anderson on the offensive line. Prime example here. Nate Anderson has played some football for SMU. It seems like he loves it here. SMU brought in Josh Bates. I mean, kind of like the same player, same school they transferred from, nasty, mean, all those things. Josh Bates was brought in to play right guard in all likelihood. Logan Parr, left guard, Addison Nichols at center. Josh Bates is coming in to play right guard. Well, that's where Nate Anderson's competing. But he stuck around. Andrew Chamblee is playing behind PJ Williams. Now, they're in the same class. They're not even, okay, all right, one more year of PJ and then Andrew Chamblee gets the job. No, they're in the same class. Andrew Chamblee didn't leave. So there are examples of this across the roster where in very not rare, but in a couple of cases, it didn't hold. But that's college football. Like Randy Reese leaving. I mean, yeah, they knew they were going after other players, but I mean, you were still one snap away in a sense from being there. So it's a different world, and I think that's what most not people need to realize, but it's just a different reality now with these position groups, and it won't always line up perfectly like last year did, where SMU had Ahmad Walker, Kobe Wilson, Alex Kilgore, and Brandon Maiazono. Those are your four. The pecking order is very clear. It's the top three playing and competing and producing. Brandon unfortunately got hurt, but he was playing some ball for SMU as well. And we're fans of Kilgore and Maiazono. Everybody knows that. So that it worked out perfectly last year. Corner, you could have argued, it didn't really work out that well. There was holes. There was up and down play. It was the only, really in pass coverage, like sore spot of that defense. So the difference is how can you take a team that maybe you've got a couple of holes or position groups that you don't feel as good about and make them into, as a whole, a side of the ball, defense or offense, that minimizes its mistakes, that plays sound fundamental football. And if you can do that, then you're going to have a chance to put together what SMU did last year. And that's kind of the thing with SMU as a whole and schools as a whole, is what you can take from your team and find a way to make sure you are on the top of your game. And that's where SMU's coaching staff being back, the same coaching staff being in place, is so important too. So we'll see kind of what that final spot or two holds for SMU, but they were able to go out and address the wide receiver room, which I thought was important. They now have to kind of hit the reset a little bit on that overall on that linebacker spot if they want to add somebody, but I really don't think they're going to just to add somebody. They're going to go and try to find a defensive tackle now and address that position one more time. But trying to see if there's anything else that over the weekend and kind of things like that popped off here. We'll go back through some of these other additions that SMU got. I'll go back through and do some of the other commitments that SMU got when it comes to putting that together for you guys, kind of my look back podcast. But let's shift gears for just a second here, and let's talk about high school recruiting again, because returns continue to come in from this big recruiting weekend. But first, I do want to tell you guys about our friends up Mignon in Plano. Really excited. Sunday, Mother's Day, boom, we locked in our reservation. We're so excited to be doing Mignon in Plano. Fine dining experience, great brunch menu. They've got a set menu that is incredible. 3 options over 3 courses. A few more options there in that second course, that main course that they're going to have, but really excited. They've got the Caesar salad I'm eyeing, lobster bisque. Even Jack has a kids menu, set menu that he can order off of. And we're excited to be celebrating Mother's Day with our friends at Mignon. So they're SMU owned. They're right there in Plano. They've been there for decades. Make sure you make your reservations today on OpenTable. It was just quick, easy, couple clicks, boom, done. We're locked in for Mother's Day. So we're so excited to do that and join our friends over there at Mignon. So hope you guys get some time to make it over there as well and enjoy the fine dining experience for Mother's Day. SMU continues to build momentum coming off of that big recruiting weekend. And you know it's big when Steve Wiltfong is dropping articles at ontheponyexpress.com. And that's another big thing. And I'll definitely touch on this at the end of the podcast because I forgot to last episode, which is touch on the rivals on 3 merging, teaming up, acquisition, all those things, whatever you want to call it. But we are thrilled to have guys like Steve Wiltfong, one of the godfathers of recruiting, and Scoop on our message board dropping articles. And he has a big update on the site, talking about Tiki Hala, the Bastrop High defensive tackle who's going to make his decision on May 10th here, coming up on Saturday. Papunga Katoa, the big offensive lineman that SMU's battling Oklahoma and Texas A&M for. And then, of course, Algebra Miles, Braylon Edwards, chopping it up with him, the 2 new SMU commits. And then, a couple other big updates were dropped in there as well. So this is a huge weekend that SMU got a lot of good things coming out of it. And one that I want to talk about real quick here, because this is news. I'm going to give you guys the whole scoop at ontheponyexpress.com, but SMU did land at the top of the list for 3-star linebacker Markel Dabney. He's out of the Virginia area. SMU had him and another DMV area prospect in Andre Clark on campus this weekend, and they really, really impressed both of them. And I think it's apparent now that SMU is in position to challenge for both of these recruitments. And I mentioned Andre Clark and last episode, and just I just think this is a really good situation for SMU with these 2 guys. You look at SMU's recruiting prowess over the last couple years. They've really expanded nationally, and Markel Dabney actually really started out. This is my memory. I'm trying to remember correctly, but Markel Dabney started out playing safety as a prospect and just maybe as an athlete overall. But now he's emerged as a big, true linebacker. He plays both sides of the ball. I got a chance to watch his tape. You guys are watching it now on YouTube if you catch us on there. And he really shows the athleticism that you want on both sides of the ball. And linebackers that play a running back, a wide receiver in high school as well, it just really shows their true athletic abilities. And we see that as a nice indicator. So I'm going to have our On 3 guys kind of look back at Markel Dabney and see what he brings to the table from an athletics trait prospects. But I saw him in person at the hotel on Sunday, and a big linebacker, a 6'3", 210-pound. The thing about it is, and Charles Power, our national director of scouting and rankings, just did a story after the NFL draft talking about hits and misses of the first round. Well, Abdul Carter was recruited to play linebacker at Penn State. He ends up moving up to edge. There's also another prospect at linebacker in his class who ends up moving back to safety. And I think he got drafted as well. But linebacker is probably one of the hardest positions to scout for college programs. And Markel Dabney is kind of a prime example there of why it's difficult, because he plays all over the field, plays some safety, plays some linebacker. I think he could rush the passer. I saw him on Sunday. He's got some height to him. Like, he's listed at 6'3" or so, and he's got the ability to fill out that frame and really impress. So I liked Markel Dabney a lot, but the big news here is that he did name SMU as his number one school coming off the visit weekend. So we'll have that story up at ontheponyexpress.com. Michigan is a program that is still very much involved with him. Dabney did say that there's a chance that he shuts down his recruitment before he takes these other official visits, and that would be big for SMU. And he is somebody that is also getting recruited by Virginia Tech and Pitt. They're really pushing hard. SMU did a fantastic job with him this weekend, and they really have made him a huge priority, and they've really ramped up their efforts as a whole in Virginia because it's kind of that big area that SMU can say, hey, we're going to play here. We're going to play Virginia. We're going to play Virginia Tech. We're going to play right around here a lot. So your family and friends are going to get to see you. But then also you've got a chance to, branch out, go to another big city. I don't know exactly where, Markel Dabney sees him from a college town to a city, but he really, really came away impressed with SMU as a whole. And, to go from Richmond, Virginia to Dallas, Texas isn't a huge jump like it is for some of these small town prospects that SMU's had in here and there. But Markel Dabney, it's clear coming off this weekend, SMU's made a big move for him. So we talked about linebacker a little earlier in the podcast. That position for SMU for Maurice Crum, you look at the guys they're recruiting, they're after a bunch of linebackers kind of coast to coast. They've also got some in-state guys like Isaiah Young thereafter. They hosted another linebacker, Rodney Colton, this past weekend, I believe. Calvin Thomas was definitely there, and SMU made a really nice impression on him. Overall, you've got a good situation for SMU emerging at this linebacker position long term, and that's going to be the fun thing to see it all play out. And for SMU to, maybe find a way to really build this through the high school ranks once and for all. I'd love to see them take 2 to 3 high school linebackers this cycle. That would be the big thing I'd like to see if I'm SMU, making that move and saying, hey, we're going to address this position. And if they can get Markel Dabney and Calvin Thomas, maybe you just stop at 2 because they're that good, in my opinion. But then you'd have one more year. You have one more year of Alex Kilgore, Brandon Maizano, Justin Medlock, Sakai Barker. I mean, that's 4 guys that are out the door. You're going to have to bring in a transfer portal guy, maybe in all likelihood next year. But what you want to have is that future secured, that 2026 class where you could say, okay, we might need to portal 1 to 2 linebackers here and address this position as a whole, but let's go ahead and let's load up 2 to 3 for sure. And then those guys, the portal guys, can be there for a year or two, help them. And then boom, you're kind of really solidified long-term. That's the tricky thing about the linebacker position. It's really kind of been it's a tough one to eval. It's been a little touch and go here and there as far as the long-term outlook of it, but Maurice Crum has it in a great situation. So I did want to share that. I talked to Markel last night, didn't get to talk to him in person after the visit. So that is some big news there from him. So, all right. I did want to tell you guys about the big news of last week, kind of the end of my trip to France that happened. And this is that On3 has acquired Rivals, and in a landmark deal for the recruiting industry is going to be folding in Rivals really to our network. And this is huge for a multitude of reasons. And I just want to kind of try to answer a couple questions here. But what's happened is the ownership group behind On3, led by Shannon Terry, who started Rivals back in the day and really built that up into the original authority in recruiting on high school sports and fan communities, has acquired Rivals from Yahoo Sports. Now, On3 and Rivals is going to create a network, and I'm reading off the press release just for clarity's sake, but we'll create a network that'll serve millions of fans and student athletes nationwide. On3 and Rivals subscribers will gain access to premium content on both platforms, which increases your subscription value, which is huge. But Yahoo Sports is also going to take an ownership stake in On3. Now, Yahoo is not going to take over On3. Yahoo is now going to have representation when it being in meetings with On3. So this is going to be a really cool partnership that is a massive win-win for On3, for Rivals. It's a huge, huge deal here for multiple reasons. So what's next? We're not going anywhere at the On the Pony Express at ontheponyexpress.com. Like, we're fine. Nothing's really going to change. What really happens is we get access to a lot of Rivals people, their data, their just overall kind of long-term, what's it called? Long-term clout that's been built up. Like, Rivals has been around for everybody. Everybody knows Rivals. And so we can now tap into that a little bit more. And so it helps us from a visibility perspective, and it helps us from a people perspective. There's great people that are over there at Rivals. There's a lot of people that I've known in the industry for a long time. We're now going to be on the same team. Rivals is going to be listed as the high school side of recruiting. And so when you'll see that, that's kind of the idea with it. Then On3 is going to be focused on college, transfer portal, things like that. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to be able to add staff at ontheponyexpress.com. So that's a huge, huge, huge deal for you guys. Looking forward to some news on that very soon. I'm not going to wait until later this summer when kind of the folding in really starts to happen and things like that officially. But we're going to be bringing on a new person on the Pony Express, a contributor. So excited about that. So stay tuned for that. And overall, I mean, that's really it. What it means for you guys on the Pony Express. So it's a huge deal. We'll get more kind of cross promotion. We'll get more exposure. It's just a great situation for us. And Rivals has kind of been up for sale for years now. Yahoo's been trying to find a way to unload it, so to speak, and they found a way. And I when the news came down, I was stoked. I've been just so excited about this, and all the conversations we've had have been super positive. So it's a huge deal for you guys as On the Pony Express subscribers. So stay tuned for more on that, but nothing really changing on our end day to day or anything like that. So we're going to make any changes as smoothly for you guys as possible, but it is all good change with this On3 move to acquire Rivals. So excited about it. I just want to share a couple of tidbits there with you guys before we get out of here. So more on that as it comes. Before we get out of here on the Pony Express podcast presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency, 214-352-5656. Also want to remind you guys about our friends at AKM Turf and Greens. Make sure you get over to their website, akmturfandgreens.com, and really find out more about what type of projects they do. If you're watching on YouTube, you could see this incredible backyard that they did. They have a lot more to offer when it comes to the overall landscape that they can do for you. They can do turf in between pavers. They can do little backyard chipping greens, putting greens. They have a plethora of options for you to really make your backyard look like the backyard of your dreams. And you take $500 off your first project at On the Pony by mentioning On the Pony Express or Pony Up. You've got a really nice little helping hand there to making sure your backyard is all set and ready to go for summer. We mentioned our friends at Mosquito Shield. Moshield.com is where you go. Give them a call. Andrew Galloway and his wife, making it happen there for our On the Pony Express subscribers as well. You pair up AKM Turf and Greens and Moshield.com. You're going to be in good shape. So give Moshield.com a call, 214-775-0622. And that is about it for us at the On the Pony Express podcast. So we hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll be back. We'll drop our special Cinco de Mayo interview podcast with the guys maybe today, but probably tomorrow. And then we will be back with more at the On the Pony Express podcast later this week as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this pod, and we'll catch you next time on another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency, Status Jet, Thomas Auto Group. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on 3 and on Instagram at on3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.